Wondery Plus subscribers can listen to Morbid early and ad-free. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.
You're listening to a Morbid Network podcast.
Redacted, Declassified Mysteries is a new podcast hosted by me, Luke LaManna. Each week, I dive into the hidden truths behind the world's most powerful institutions, from covert government experiments to bizarre assassination attempts. Follow Redacted on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey weirdos, I'm Elena.
I'm Ash.
And this is Morbid.
It's kind of morbid in the morning, but it's like morbid brunch a little
Yeah,
bit.
morbid mid-morning.
Morbid in mid-morning.
Yeah, that has the same feel.
It doesn't.
Absolutely.
No.
Hi,
No,
everybody. We hope your mornings are going well.
Ours are.
Ours are really happy right now. We're having a good morning.
We're having a good old morning.
Good old morning.
I
Top of the
think-
morning to you.
The Patreons are having a good morning too.
Yeah, we
so-
hope you are, because we love you and we appreciate you, and you deserve the world, and we would like to give it to you if we could.
You do.
You do.
On a sadder, like not lighter note at all,
There's some real updates here.
I do have an update about the Lauren Smith Fields case. We mentioned Lauren Smith Fields on a past episode. She was the woman who had met an older man on Bumble, and he was the last person to see her alive. He called the police the morning after their first date and just said that she was unresponsive.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually know this part of the story. Lauren's mother, Chantel, wasn't able to get into contact with her during all of this, obviously. And so she drove over to Lauren's apartment, and there was a note left on the door that said, "If you're looking for Lauren, call this number."
What?
So the family was informed.
Not know that.
The family was informed that she had been found dead in her apartment a day and a half earlier.
Oh, come on.
There was no effort made to let them know.
I'm sorry. This is so beyond
It's so
horrific in
fucked.
every way. Like, this is handled so poorly.
And they were told, quote, this is a quote, "We didn't need to reach out to any family member. We had her passport and her ID, so we knew who she was. And we already performed an autopsy. Her body's at the medical examiner's office." They were also hung up on during this interaction when they asked for more information.
What is wrong with
Luckily,
these people?
this one detective was taken off the case, but they were also told that, because they were like, okay, so who is this man that she was last seen with? Like, is he being investigated?
Yeah,
and they
she's
were
our
like,
child. Can we know anything
they were
about
like,
her death, please?
no, he's not being investigated, and he, quote unquote, seems like a nice man.
Yeah, totally.
Like, okay,
That's
again,
never
so
happened
did Ted
before.
Bundy.
Yeah. So did Jeffrey Dahmer to some people.
So did John Wayne Gacy. Look
John
what
Wayne
was
Gacy
in his
made them
crawl space.
sandwiches.
Exactly. So this man did speak with police, and this is his story. He said that he and Lauren had met on Bumble, and they had spent the night together drinking. They were watching a movie. He said that she went outside to meet somebody at some point, and that later on in the night, she fell ill, but they continued to drink. And he said that she eventually fell asleep, and he carried her to bed, which I was like, on your first date? Like, I feel like you're lying about something.
Just nothing about this seems real.
No. And he said then he went to sleep next to her. And then he woke up several hours later, about 6:30 in the morning. She wasn't breathing and her nose was bleeding. So that's when he called 911. And that's the first I heard about her nose bleeding at this point.
I don't know.
So the family wasn't contacted at all. And then a day and a half later, they find that note, and then they find out what's going on.
So it's like, would they have just never told them?
Yeah,
If they
like-
didn't find that note, what would have happened here?
Exactly.
This is wild.
So, and also, like, they performed an autopsy without even talking to the family
That's
first.
the other thing.
Which
That's
obviously
like-
they would have wanted an autopsy performed, but you talk to the family first, I would
we
assume.
have to get full consent from a family before we can even attempt to begin an autopsy.
That's what I always thought.
Because
Yeah.
sometimes it holds, the entire schedule up, because that's
Right.
the important part is you need
Consent.
You need next of kin to consent.
Yeah. So the medical examiner did rule her death an accidental overdose due to quote unquote acute intoxication due to the combined effects of fentanyl, promethazine, hydroxyzine, and alcohol.
Whoa.
And again, ruled the death an accident. There's fentanyl in her system. Like,
something's wrong here.
What?
Something is wrong here. Something is wrong here.
oh, you think? Because they also didn't investigate evidence that was left at the scene, which, according to the Smithfield's family attorney, Darnell Crosland, I believe is how you say his name, he told CBS News that bloodied sheets were not processed at the scene until 2.5 weeks later. And they also found a pill at the scene and a condom with semen in it. And none of that wasn't processed.
What exactly did they do? Did they walk in and go, oh, well.
Yup.
That's literally what they did.
Yup. So this family
That's
is like,
outrageous.
this is outrageous. This is clearly racially charged why we're being treated this way. So the mayor of Bridgeport, actually on Monday, so yesterday, announced that the police department's interaction with the family of Lauren Smithfields will be investigated by the Office of Internal Affairs, and also announced that they will be updating its policies on family death notifications. Saying, quote, death notification should be done in a manner that illustrates dignity for the deceased and respect and compassion for the family. Therefore, I will work with the chief of police to make appropriate changes here in Bridgeport to our department's policies and practices regarding notifying family members of a death. I support and add my voice to the family, community, and elected officials who are calling for state legislation on this issue.
That is shameful. That's
Shameful.
I have never in my life heard of a police department sticking a note on a door.
If you're looking for Lauren, call this number. How about you sit down at your desk and try your best to get in touch with me?
And that's literally part of what you do as
That's
a
your
police
job.
detective.
That is your job.
Any police detective worth their weight would say to you one of the worst parts of their job is having to inform the next of kin,
Of
the
course.
family members, about what happened to their loved one.
Of course.
That is literally a standard part of their job. It's insane to me that this is being treated like, oh, we just missed that step.
No,
it's like, no, that's
unreal.
literally the most important step at that point, is getting that family to know what happened.
It's just like so up.
This is their child. This is their sibling. This is like friends. Like, this is insane. Like, Lauren deserves some justice here, and her family does.
It's just
something's off
so
here.
Messed up.
I'm not accusing anyone of anything right now, but I'm saying something's off. Something is off.
And it's very clear what's going on here.
It needs to be investigated.
And luckily
properly.
It is, but I'm like, let's make sure that this is what you just said, investigated properly.
And maybe don't wait to do this. Maybe do it when you're supposed to do it, instead of when the family who is grieving the tragic and brutal loss of their child and sister, instead of waiting until they have to like bang on your door to get you to do it, maybe just do your job.
Exactly.
When you're supposed to do it. It's the same thing what we're going to talk about in the Brandon Swanson case, when they were like, well, he's 19, he probably just left, and they didn't do their job right away. And they missed
wrong with you?
Valuable time.
It's so fucked.
I don't understand the lack of urgency in some of these police departments. It's like really wild when your job is all about responding to urgency.
Well, I was just going to say, like, that's exactly what I was going to say. That's your whole job, is being urgent.
Job. That's it.
Like, in your resume, you should write that you have a sense of urgency.
You are supposed to protect and you are supposed to serve. When you do neither of those things, what exactly are you being paid for?
Right.
I just don't understand that.
And it's so clear that it's racially motivated in this case, and it is disgusting, and it like makes me sick.
Well, hopefully this case, I mean, I see people trying to push it on social media. Keep pushing this case on social media the way that, we pushed like Gabby Petito, because that got really pushed out there and it helped. And that's the thing, like these cases need to be pushed out in front of a lot of people so that things can happen.
Like, this should be international news.
It should be everywhere, and it's not, and it's crazy. So let's keep pushing it out, guys, because it's just important. Because people are getting like lost in the cracks here.
But we're gonna keep you as updated as possible on Lauren's case, because clearly something has gone awry in that situation.
Something is amiss.
That is
something wicked. This way comes.
That is foul play, in my opinion.
Yeah. So definitely keep an eye out for that, and keep sharing it as much as you can. But let's get into part 2 of Brandon Swanson, because because the fact that I had to wait with you guys just like what, 2 days, not even, and she wouldn't tell me
anything.
No,
she
because
wouldn't tell me a thing.
I had asked you guys, like, you know, if you have any theories, if you have any insights into like little pieces of this, by all means send them. I would like to like include you guys in this episode because you guys have a lot of like cool and like interesting things to say about this stuff. So you did. So thank you very much.
You did.
And so I waited just that day to let everybody kind of throw in their theories if they could. And I kind of was just mulling through them. I'll say like first names, but I won't say like your full name or anything like that. But I really appreciate you guys sending them in because it's going to help everybody kind of understand this a little better and help us kind of piece what possibly could have happened together.
Mm-hmm.
In a quiet suburb, a community is shattered by the death of a beloved wife and mother. But this tragic loss of life quickly turns into something even darker. Her husband had tried to hire a hitman on the dark web to kill her. And she wasn't the only target. Because buried in the depths of the internet is the kill list, a cache of chilling documents containing names, photos, addresses, and specific instructions for people's murders. This podcast is the true story of how I ended up in a race against time to warn those whose lives were in danger. And it turns out convincing a total stranger someone wants them dead is not easy. Follow Kill List on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Kill List and more Exhibit C true crime shows like Morbid early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus. Check out Exhibit C in the Wondery app for all your true crime listening.
Hotshot Australian attorney Nicola Gaba was born into legal royalty. Her specialty? Representing some of the city's most infamous gangland criminals. However, while Nicola held the underworld's darkest secrets, the most dangerous secret was her own.
She's going to all the major groups within Melbourne's underworld, and she's informing on them all.
I'm Marcia Clark, host of the new podcast, Informants Lawyer X. In my long career in criminal justice as a prosecutor and defense attorney, I've seen some crazy cases, and this one belongs right at the top of the list.
She was addicted to the game she had created. She just didn't know how to stop.
Now, through dramatic interviews and access, I'll reveal the truth behind one of the world's most shocking legal scandals. Listen to Informants Lawyer X exclusively on Wondery Plus. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, and listen to more Exhibit C true crime shows early and ad-free right now.
So, going back to where we ended with them finding his car off the beaten path there on that Lyons County, Lyons Lincoln County Road, I think it is. And they have not yet found Brandon. And to this day, 2022, have not found Brandon Swanson.
So crazy.
Beginning of 2022.
I wanted to say something about the car too. When I was looking for the images to post on Instagram, I'm pretty sure that the car that pops up that's like totally off the road is not a real crime scene.
Well, there's a few different photos of different cars. So we weren't going to post anything because I can't figure out which one is the real one.
And most of them are on like paved roads. Yeah. And we were saying that this was a gravel road. So don't pay attention to those.
Yeah. So it feels pretty safe to say, and everyone agreed in the emails and in all the comments I saw, I think we were all on the same page, that Brandon was likely on those back roads. The reason he was on any back roads was probably to avoid getting pulled over.
Yeah.
Or going through a sobriety checkpoint of some sort, you know, those things are always on main routes like Route 68 that you would take directly to Marshall.
And especially around that time of night.
It doesn't make it easier to understand how he was so far away from where he thought he was. It just makes us understand why he was out on those country roads to begin with instead of that straight shot. Mm-hmm. So I agree with all of you. I'm in the same camp. I think he turned off that road to begin with to stay away from main roads.
It makes sense.
Because he was drinking at the party. So he was probably just like, I don't even want to.
Yeah, whether or not he was intoxicated, I'm sure it would still show up on it.
Now, this is confirmed in my mind when I finally found a police report for Brandon's DUI arrest before this.
Okay.
It was an arrest in, it was 9/14/2006 that the arrest happened. So it was 2 years before this. He was 17.
Okay.
So he was pretty young. 17-year-olds, you know what I'm saying?
It happens.
His blood alcohol level was 0.08, which is considered legally impaired.
Oh, okay.
He was found guilty and all that mess, like went through the whole thing. So it is very likely that he was really nervous driving home after drinking at those parties. And again, we still don't know exactly how many drinks he had. Officials also believe this is the reasoning for him taking those back roads to begin with.
It's really the only thing for me that makes sense.
Nothing else makes sense.
Why else would he be doing that? And that's just like such a perfect
it
sense.
just makes sense. Now, investigators have also said, though, that they don't believe that Brandon was intoxicated to the point of impairment that night. I cannot find why they feel this way or what led them to this conclusion, but they have stated that. As we said before, his parents are also in agreement with this statement. I don't know if they're just taking the statements from the parents and being like, all right, we can see, or they have something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
But again, the parents were on the phone with him all night that night.
Right.
So they know their son, of course.
Know.
So let's talk about some theories. Theory number 1, he staged his own disappearance. That's a big theory everywhere.
Don't buy it.
There is absolutely no indication that Brandon would have just wanted to leave without a trace. He had a very specific plan academically that he was making like actual strides towards. He had tons of friends. He was close to his family. He had that small legal hiccup in 2016, a DUI at 17. That's not like he was, in some big like ring of criminals or anything like that.
No, it's very,
And there was, from what I looked and researched, there was no other legal thing attached to his name. So there's that like, whoops, hiccup, DUI at 17. Yeah. We move past it. That's it. Now, the other major thing here is that he voluntarily called his friends for help and then his parents.
Yeah.
This wasn't a situation where they reached out to him. He called them for help and stayed on the phone for a long time. In fact, it was 47 minutes that he was on the phone with his father, walking, trying to get towards where he thought was Lind. That's not really screaming, I'm faking my own death or disappearance to me.
No.
So I say absolutely not to that one.
I agree with you.
But it's always something that people grab onto in these situations. Like the Bryce Lespisa case is one that comes to mind.
That one makes more sense.
Where it actually makes sense. This one just doesn't have anything.
No, not in this case.
Now, the second theory. Brandon fell into the river.
Okay, but why didn't they find him?
Well, that's the thing. This is absolutely plausible.
Yeah.
It's plausible, but with a caveat. In my mind.
A caveat, if you will.
I believe it is entirely possible, and probably probable, actually, that he fell into the river. Maybe he slipped, his phone fell as he went in. His father did indicate in an interview that he thinks he heard a slipping sound like Brandon fell.
Okay.
But I believe he got out of the river. The dogs hit and indicated that, and also, they never found his body in the river.
Or his cell phone.
He never washed up, and by now they would have found him.
Absolutely.
Investigators also don't believe he is still in that river. They were like, I don't think he drowned in that river.
No, and the fact that I know like dogs can be like a little bit tricky, but the fact that they got his scent out of the river,
exactly,
like, that's pretty big for me.
And it's just we can talk about it in a second, but that river has dried up recently. At one point it's because of like a drought, so it fills in, dries up.
Yeah,
but when it dried, they found nothing.
Yeah, they would have.
So it's like
they would have found something.
I believe he very well could have fallen in, but he definitely crawled out or waded through it and out, and maybe that is the problem here, because let's get to the next one.
The elements.
Theory 3. He died from exposure.
Yes.
So if Brandon went into the water that night and got out, he would be soaking wet, of course.
And it was already 40 degrees.
It was below 40 degrees that evening in Minnesota. Wet clothing in particular is a killer in cold weather conditions, even in like temperate weather conditions.
Yeah.
Cold, wet clothing can give you hypothermia. It's just waiting to strike.
Yeah.
Now, survivalists say that if you get soaking wet in cold weather, you should immediately take the clothing off and wring it out the best to your ability before putting it back on.
Good to know.
Because soaking wet clothing will suck the heat right out of your body way faster.
Oh, that freaks me out.
Now, this is because heat is lost via conduction and evaporation. Hypothermia can also happen because of convection while the wind blows. It will blow the air that your body warms away from you, and it will begin to cool you.
I'm getting triggered to like 6th grade science class when I was like not so good at like the difference between conduction and convection.
It's very interesting when it comes to hypothermia, though.
It is.
It can also happen by radiation, where heat is lost through exposed areas like your face or head. That's why they always say, like, wear a hat. You lose heat through your head.
Or like, don't go out with wet hair.
That's radiation. But we are going to concentrate for a moment on wet clothes, because this is if Brandon fell into the river somehow and got out. So wet clothing will conduct heat like water. And water conducts heat away from the body.
Oh.
Water conducts heat 25 times faster than dry air does because it has a greater density, so it has a greater capacity for heat.
Fun.
Now, I looked back at Brandon's clothing, and he was wearing a polo shirt and a sweatshirt. I'm assuming cotton was a big part of these shirts. I saw that like some shirts are like polyester or a blend of cotton and polyester.
Yeah.
A lot of times these kind of sweatshirts and stuff are like 100% cotton.
Yeah.
Because it's the fabric of our lives, you know.
I'm obsessed with you.
If this is true, if this is
Wait. Cotton, the fabric of our lives.
There you go. There it is. So I'm assuming it could have been cotton.
Yeah.
Now, if this is true, getting those wet and then wandering around for even under an hour could prove fatal for Brandon. Cotton is the worst fabric to get wet in cold or even mild temperatures.
And why is that?
Cotton absorbs water, and the fibers that make cotton up stick together when they're wet. So it will hold a massive amount of water against your bare skin, and it will not insulate the heat at all.
Oh, goody.
So it'll literally like just kill you by holding all the cold water against your skin.
Oh.
Since the cold water will absorb the heat faster than the air around you, cotton will cause you to lose heat very quickly too. So there is a saying in survivalist circles that I found. I'm not a survivalist, so I had to find this.
Nay.
That is cotton kills. So they don't recommend that you wear like cotton when you're, you know, going on like crazy hiking things and like could be exposed to elements. Like at least have other things as well.
Yeah, people usually wear those like thermal shirts.
Exactly, like things that are going to be able to bring the water away from your body. Now, if Brandon was indeed wearing a cotton shirt, or any shirt really, but cotton just really intrigued me with how fatal it is.
Well, and I'm sure his shirt, even if it wasn't 100% cotton, had some kind of cotton.
He also was wearing a white t-shirt underneath the polo shirt, and that was very likely 100% cotton.
Probably Hanes.
It probably was.
Fruit of the loom, even.
Exactly. Now, if Brandon was indeed wearing a cotton shirt and he fell into the water but managed to get out, he could have very likely, very quickly died of exposure.
Yeah.
But here's theory 3B. So we're working right off of that theory.
Sure. We love an outline.
Brandon fell into the water, got wet, started to succumb to the effects of hypothermia, but passed out somewhere in a field or a farm, because that's what happens during hypothermia. I'll get into it. And was run over by farm equipment.
Oh.
I know you're like, what?
I was like, that's a big jump.
I know, but hear me out.
I shall.
This is a real theory. People really have this theory. I've seen it in many, many places, and it very much intrigued me.
Okay.
And there are reports that some of the dogs hit on a piece of farm equipment on one of the farms.
Do we know what it was?
But the owner of the property wouldn't allow a complete search.
Oh.
Now, that is something that happens because farms are, you know, places they don't want tons of people trampling over their crops, the dogs scaring the cattle, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But interesting.
Especially in like a case where there's like a missing child.
In fact, investigators are still searching for Brandon. Like it's a very active thing still. People still go out and search for him.
Yeah.
As recently as last year in 2021. And they confirm that are still places they have not been able to access within the search area. And this is because certain property owners are not allowing them on their property.
If the dogs hit a certain piece of farm equipment on one specific farm, would that be enough to get a warrant?
The investigators say it's not.
I mean, it makes sense. Yeah, it's not really
It's not probable
much.
cause.
Right.
Apparently, a lot of cattle farmers, you know, don't want the dogs on their property for that reason. I get it, but like...
Can we like put the cattle away for a minute?
Like there's a missing person.
Yeah.
The dogs like freak out the cattle.
I get it.
And, you know, they don't want to trample over crops. That's how they make their living. That is a very understandable thing, that they don't want people just, like, digging up their farms.
Of course.
But, like, this is hard. This is a hard thing. And the sheriff did say most farmers and property owners in that area are absolutely cooperative, happy to help this family, happy to aid in this search. But there's just a few that are really holding out. Interesting.
Yeah,
the sheriff, yeah, it makes things that make you go, So sheriff says, unfortunately, they can't get that probable cause to force a search at these farms.
Yeah.
And they kind of just have to rely on the farmers just telling them, yeah, I looked around, I didn't find anything.
To me, that bodes well.
That's a big hole in this. There's a big hole in here.
Well, and it would be one thing if that was just a theory. Like, it's a pretty good theory. Mm-hmm. But the fact that it also goes hand in hand with a dog, like, going right up to a piece of farm equipment.
Oh, yeah. And I'll get to it because I actually have like a statement that confirms that. Now, if it seems crazy that a farmer might just like accidentally run over a body in a field, because I'm sure they're like, it's like, what?
Yeah, like how would you not notice that or something?
Well, in September 2020, a 14-year-old boy in Michigan was run over by a corn harvester after falling asleep in a field.
Oh, God.
And the farmer never noticed he was there until he ran over him. In 2012, a Montana person, a Montana person,
one of those people from Montana
people, a guy fell asleep in a cornfield and was sucked into a combine that just ran over him.
What?
According to the Billings Gazette, quote, the farmer didn't see the sleeping man from atop his massive farm equipment.
Of course,
because it's
really
hard to see
ahead of you.
And he ran over him on Wednesday afternoon. Police say he drove for 50 yards with the man stuck in the blades before the machine began to shudder.
Oh, God.
The farmer told officers in Billings, Montana, that he believed he had hit a fence post or an irrigation pipe.
Because I'm sure that happens a lot.
Absolutely. The Billings Gazette reports that the farmer only realized what had happened when he turned off the combine and heard screams. This man lived. Crazy.
What?
I know. In 2021 in Italy.
Oh,
so
wait.
not even, we're going outside.
Can you imagine being like, one time I fell asleep in a cornhole
into
maze.
a
Cornhole maze. Cornhole's the game. The maze is something different.
Maze.
I fell asleep in the crops, guy.
In a corn combine just sucked me into the blades. If you go look at a corn combine.
I'm about to,
or
okay?
A farm combine.
I will.
So in 2021 in Italy, so it doesn't just happen in the United States, 2 women were run over in a cornfield by a corn harvester, and both of them died. One of them called 911 and said, "We've been run over by a corn combine." And they both were found dead.
What? They called 911 while being run over?
One of them did. One of them was like, my girlfriend was just we were run over. She's dead, and I need help. And they couldn't get to them in time.
Yeah, these are
no joke.
Massive.
And it's hard for farmers to see, and it would be easy for that to happen.
Yeah,
it really
would.
Now, Jeff Hassey is the professional search manager on the case. And he writes the blog, The Search for Brandon, where he updated in detail the search efforts for years. And he confirms via a post that dogs once hit on a piece of farm equipment. He was there for it.
Do we know what it was?
This is the post verbatim. The fields within 2 to 3 miles of the last known position of Brandon were searched early. Because the fields were not planted yet or newly planted with no growth, PODs were relatively high. The canine teams initially avoided searching fields for several reasons. 1, the assumption that a few fields had been planted when Brandon went missing, therefore the farmers would have found him while planting.
Yep.
2, farmers tend to be very sensitive about crop damage, and we wanted to avoid that issue.
Sure.
3, the constant wind blowing through that area allowed the dogs to effectively sample many of the fields from their edges.
Okay.
Which is cool. I didn't know that they could do that. They could get a
either.
sample of that field with the wind blowing off of it.
That's cool.
Once we determined that the remains were likely within the Mud Creek drainage, and we found out that over 60% of the fields in that area had already been planted when Brandon went missing, we felt we could no longer ignore those fields because they had already been planted. So if he's in there, they might not know.
Right.
This occurred in the late spring of 2009. Since then, we have been systematically detail searching each of the fields in the area, an exhausting process. Recently, 5 different certified HRD dogs gave full trained final responses on a field cultivator sitting by the side of a field. This may or may not indicate that the body is scattered in a nearby field. This is one of the more puzzling findings.
It makes sense.
This is the search manager, the official search manager that said this.
Yeah.
A field cultivator.
Yikes.
So there is a real possibility that this happened. And Jeff also indicates in a Q&A that although they can't say the exact location they believe he went into the water when the dogs hit on that part, The dogs indicated an area that they did search thoroughly. And he said they could tell within a couple of 100 feet where he went in. And he said in a post that it was not deep in these areas or any areas around it.
So he probably waited.
He said mostly it was less than a foot deep on average. And once you fell in, it would be easy to get back out.
Okay.
So say this happened. He fell in. Whoops, drops the phone. Can't find the phone, doesn't have his glasses, doesn't know where that phone is. Maybe the phone is face down and he can't see the light.
Uh-huh.
You never know. Or who knows? Actually, I think the phone at that point was a flip phone.
I was going to say that.
So it probably fell and he can't see it. Again, doesn't have his glasses, which we're going to get to in a minute because somebody had a great theory about that. So he's wet now. Wet clothing. We already talked about what happens in cold or mild weather when you have cold, wet clothing on. You are going to lose heat very quickly. Hypothermia creeps up sometimes within an hour of getting the water.
Very quickly.
So when this happened, he could have gone through the stages until incapacitation or death occurred. So mild hypothermia is when you start hypothermia, and it's going to happen at 36 to 35 degrees Celsius. You're going to start shivering, but it's going to be involuntary shivering. It's going to be like crazy shivering. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be able to do complex motor functions, but you can still walk and talk to a degree.
Sure.
The blood vessels in your hands and feet are going to narrow because they're going to want to keep heat inside your body. Your body knows what to do when it's going on, so it tries to keep everything moving, but also keep you alive with the least amount of energy and fuel used as possible. So when you go into moderate hypothermia, which is 35 degrees to 33 degrees, you may begin to feel woozy here. Like you're going to start feeling off. There's going to be loss of coordination. There's going to be slurred speech. Violent shivering is going to happen, like uncontrollable. This is when paradoxical undressing can happen in this the moderate hypothermia, because it starts to make your mind just think irrationally and illogically. Then you move into severe hypothermia. Violent shivering follows, but it's going to be violent shivering, and then you're going to have these moments where it just stops completely. And then you violently shiver again, and then it stops.
Is that your body like preserving energy?
Exactly. The body is going to try to conserve glucose, so it's going to try to shut that shivering down, but it's kind of involuntary at that point. You won't be able to walk anymore.
Oh, God.
And will naturally curl into the fetal position to try to stay warm.
That is so crazy.
That's when your pulse rate is going to decrease. And according to Mayo Clinic, at 32 degrees Celsius, the body tries to move into hibernation, shutting down all peripheral blood flow and reducing breathing rate and heart rate. And then at 30 degrees Celsius, the body is in a state of metabolic icebox.
Oh.
The casualty, that's what they called it in this article I read. The casualty looks dead, but is still alive.
Okay.
If treatment is not initiated, the breathing will become erratic and very shallow. The level of consciousness will continue to fall, and cardiac arrhythmias may develop. So that's when death is coming, basically. Okay. But you will look dead. Like people will think you're dead.
Right.
And you won't be able to move out of the way of, say, a corn harvester coming towards you or a combine. You're just going to be laying in the fetal position in a field somewhere.
Yeah, nobody's going to see you.
So what if this occurred in a field and the property owner didn't see them?
Yeah.
Like,
and we have
it can
how
happen.
many examples? I think you gave 3
exactly.
or 4 of that happening.
And there's many more. Google that, like people being run over by farm equipment, and it's just endless. You can see it everywhere.
Just don't let the FBI guy on your phone see that.
No, definitely not. I'm not going to run anybody over with the farm equipment I don't have. But so what if he was run over and this person didn't want to deal with the consequences, and he buried or disposed of him?
And that's a really
by some
shitty
method.
person.
It makes no sense to me that his body was never found. Mm-mm. To me, it feels like someone put him somewhere.
Well, would his body be like very, very, very destroyed in that?
Yeah, I mean, it could be.
Could he be like?
It really depends. It's like there could be just a ton of lacerations on his body, or he could be completely shredded.
Like
depending
almost
on,
like a wood chipper kind of.
Yeah, it could be a really. I mean, it could be a thing where it's just, or they just. I don't know. I just don't. To me, the fact that we have these big missing pieces in the search area, and that we haven't found him yet, or any part of him. There's no cell phone. There's
no clothing.
He had his keys on him.
Right.
The keys weren't in the car. They were with him. Where's his keys?
Right.
Where's his necklace that he was wearing?
Yeah.
Like, we haven't found anything of him. Nothing. Not a piece of clothing, not blood, nothing.
It is really bizarre.
It's very strange to me that there's nothing of him over a decade later.
Yeah.
So that to me seems pretty likely. But we'll go through a couple more theories because a lot of people have more theories.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
Theory 4. There was a wild animal attack. I mean, not a bad theory. I don't love this one because there would be evidence left behind. And the dad would have probably heard this happen on the phone, I would think.
Yeah.
Now, there is the possibility that he was attacked after the phone call went dead.
Sure.
That could happen. Maybe fell into the river, lost his phone, and was attacked while wandering back.
But
Still,
why wasn't his phone found and why weren't his clothing?
I don't feel it.
Yeah.
There are black bears, timber and gray wolves, coyotes, and big cats like bobcats and cougars out there in Minnesota.
That's terrifying.
But still, I don't really feel this one because, like you said, where are his keys? Where are his phone?
Yeah, where are his phone?
I don't love that one. But theory 5, he fell into an unmarked cistern.
What?
Now, a cistern is basically a well. You're like,
She said, what?
he fell in a what?
He fell in a who?
A well, essentially.
No.
It's an underground tank for storing water, and Minnesota has a ton of them. Now, according to Minnesota Department of Health, most of these wells should be visible, at least partially.
Yeah.
Because they should have a steel pipe sticking out of the ground. But older wells are not part of that. Older wells, because these wells can be like 100 years old.
Yeah. Well, and you're in like farmland too.
Exactly. Older wells can have tops made of concrete, tile, brick, rock, or stone. And then they can be covered over by dirt.
Oh.
Which makes them
That
blend
sounds
into the ground.
very dangerous.
And if these are hundreds of years old, that is going to weaken eventually.
Yeah, of course.
And some older wells were actually buried intentionally.
That seems problematic.
It does, especially if properties have been built around or over them. So they're just straight up hidden. And farm properties likely have more wells because of the barns and the need for irrigation. And there's a lot needed on a farm. So do people fall into wells?
Yes.
Do you ask?
Yes.
Yes.
Samara.
Well, yes. Well, aside from the big cases like Baby Jessica, which I'm sure everybody knows, adults fall into hidden old cisterns all the time.
Yeah.
Now, in 2016, a man fell into an abandoned cistern in Louisville, Kentucky, and was rescued. In 2019, a man in Connecticut fell down a cistern while renovating his really old historic home. It was in the middle of his living room.
Oh my God.
It was 30 feet deep and completely hidden.
What?
He survived.
And that was just in his home the whole time?
In his home while he was renovating. Also, in 2019, a man in Portland, Oregon, a 57-year-old private detective named Mike Zerwis, was walking out to begin gardening in his backyard and literally fell into a 100-year-old brick-lined 35-foot deep cistern.
How do I find out if I have a cistern?
I don't know.
Who do I call?
We can look with Ghostbusters.
Probably not, though.
Cistern
Well
busters.
busters?
Well, this one was filled with water, and he died in there.
Oh my God.
Which is horrific because nobody could hear him, and he didn't have a cell phone. He fell into it.
I'm glad I have a new biggest fear. Thank you.
I'm sorry about this.
Thank you for that.
In Pennsylvania in 2021, a man fell into an abandoned and hidden 20-foot deep cistern and stayed in there for 3 days before luckily being rescued. 2021 struck again in Ohio when a horse named Anna fell into an abandoned cistern on a farm but was brought out alive and was totally recovered.
Oh, Anna.
But like, horse just walking along.
The well never bothered her anyway.
So could he have... That was amazing.
Thank you.
That was really great.
Thank you so much.
So could he have been wandering while on the phone with his parents? And could he have happened to fall into a cistern while crossing through one of these farms? Could that actually be his father heard? He mentioned farms and at least 2 fence lines while he was talking to his father. He was walking through these places. So he could have definitely been around some abandoned cisterns.
The only problem that I have with that, and this is just like not even a complete thought that I'm having, but when he was falling, I feel like it would have been like echoey. Like it would have been echoey.
You would think.
Right?
I would think.
And it would last like longer. And
yeah.
I feel like he would hear, like the phone would make some kind of noise on the way down.
You would think, and I agree. But then I'm like, I don't know what microphones picked up back then on phones. So did they pick up as much as we pick up now?
I know. I don't know. I think I'm also picturing this in like a very like cartoon kind of way where you would be like, oh,
yeah, and it's like, or was he like, and then fell? Like,
yeah, like stumbled.
Like saw it coming almost, but like couldn't stop falling. Yep. I don't know.
It's not a bad theory.
It's not. It's there at least, and it's possible. Now, I just want to get to a couple of like questions and theories from you guys because you had some really good ones. So this first one, I actually, maybe I won't say names just because like none of you gave me specific
just in
permission to, so I don't want to like, none of you said anything that would be like upsetting, but like, you never know. So
People are
this one
private.
says, "Hi ladies, just got done listening to the episode. I love you too, smiley face.
I love you.
Just wanted to share my thoughts real quick. As a former police officer,
Heyo.
the jargon for the car doors would have been specified in the report. Unsecured would have meant it was unlocked, where open would have meant physically opened.
Okay.
Not sure if all departments use those terms to differentiate. Doesn't sound like that department had it all together anyways, since they
No.
didn't do anything at first. LAPD question mark? LOL. Also, I may be jumping ahead, but did the phone records say anything? You said that he had called his friends before his parents. Maybe that's what he was doing in those 2 hours. Were there any mystery numbers? One more thing. Did they fingerprint the car? Again, maybe you were saving that for part 2, but as I was listening, I was yelling these questions at you. So, first of all, thank you for clarifying the open doors thing. Because that like really, I was like, open. They were open. Open, unlocked, which one? Someone tell me. So that makes me even more concerned about what happened here.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting. I could not find anything about fingerprints being taken. And it bothered me as well, because at first I was like, did they fingerprint those doors?
Probably not.
Probably not. The phone records were not released, but from investigators and from Jeff Hassey, the search manager, the records basically help lead them to the car by pinging off that Minneota tower. And they helped confirm the parents' stories that evening, like when they had talked to him, how long.
Right.
They also showed he had made a few phone calls to friends before his parents. There was never a mention of any weird number, any text messages that could be weird. But that almost makes it weirder that there's no weird thing on his phone.
Yeah.
Like nothing. Everything was pretty out of the ordinary on
Or
his
it
phone.
just makes sense.
Inside the ordinary on his phone.
So far, I'm really going for the farm equipment theory.
Me too. That's the one I'm really
really
sticking
just
on.
makes sense.
Now, the glasses.
Okay, yeah. Why was he driving without his glasses?
So we had a listener write in that I was like, wow, you just gave me something to think about. So this is what the email said. I just listened to part 1 of Where is Brandon Swanson and wanted to give some insight into being legally blind out of one eye.
Okay.
I have amblyopia after 34 years on this earth. Still no clue on how to pronounce that one. That's what they say. Which is basically just lazy eye, but not necessarily the kind that wanders. One eye is weaker than the other and can be so weak that you can be declared legally blind. I would think maybe Brandon had a similar condition if it wasn't an injury, but I obviously do not know. Anyway, I'm legally blind out of my right eye, but can still see light, colors, and motion. This primarily affects peripheral vision and depth perception.
Okay.
I have a few theories about Brandon's glasses being off. Back in my younger partying days, a drive home on a dark road used to give me a wicked double vision. Like the center line on the road would cross over, even if I had only had 1 or 2 light beers. This still happens now if I'm a little too tired. Brandon being not a big guy and minimally having that 1 shot of whiskey at the last party maybe caused him to have the same reaction. When you wear glasses that try to help the vision in the legally blind eye, and you mix that with drinking or being sleepy, the blind eye that's working overtime to see stuff gets legit tired. So you end up with weird double vision that is partially normal sight and partially super blurry blind eye sight.
Oh, okay.
Based on the time of night he was driving and that he had gone to a few parties, even if he wasn't inebriated, he might have taken the glasses off to avoid double vision. Like if you think of a time you got too drunk and in order to see straight or stop the spins, you closed one eye.
Yeah.
Taking the glasses off is basically closing the blind eye. Hopefully all of that makes sense, or you can kind of picture what I mean, because all of that being said, with the glasses off, a U-turn or 3-point turn in the dark on a dark rural road would be crazy hard because your depth perception is way off, which maybe led to him kind of going off the road a bit or overshooting the amount of space he had to maneuver. Also, if I remember correctly, I don't think backup cameras were super common or maybe not even a thing in 2008.
I don't think so.
Yeah, depending on which eye he was blind in, but if it was the right eye like me, there's no backing up unless you turn your entire upper body around. And even then it's ridiculously hard and you lose all spatial awareness in front of you. And then walking through a dark field and crossing a river/ravine area, or if there was like a depression in the ground, depth perception would be off. So could result, or in a darker thought, someone coming up on your blind side would for sure be in a moment. Anyways, I thought I'd share because it sounded like it was really throwing you off. But when I was listening, my first thought was, oh, he had to take them off to see the road properly. If this is all useless, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's not. That was all very useful.
Yeah, hopefully your coverage of this case helps bring in new tips and help find Brandon so his family might have some peace. I agree. And also, that gave me so much. I was like, thank you.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
That makes so much sense now.
It does, because I actually didn't think of this, and this is great that this is like my relation to this, but like I used to drink a lot in like my younger years, and I couldn't close both of my eyes if I had the spins. I would close one, because if I closed both, I would still be spinning, and then two was like really intense, so I would close one eye.
That's why like people will tell you to do that, because it kind of just like
it balances it out a little.
Because if you close your eyes, you're just going to be spinning in the dark.
Right, and then you're just going to vomit everywhere.
Yeah, so maybe he was having trouble seeing that. He knows his own eyes. He knows what works for him driving. Yeah. He makes that same trek all the time. So
and I mean, like, somebody who's legally blind in one eye, like that's a very similar...
The exact same thing, just maybe a different... Yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't think of that.
I think this might be why his glasses were in the car.
But I think so too.
But I also couldn't understand, though, the part of this that I can't understand is if he needed them so badly all the time. I can understand him taking them off to drive because that makes perfect sense to me now. But why would he take them off and then not put them back on when he was leaving the car?
Because I think I was thinking that too in my head while you were reading that. And then my brain said to me, well, Ash, he thought his parents were going to be right there. Like he thought they were literally like a little bit away. And then I think he only thought it was going to take a certain amount of time to get to that parking lot. So maybe it just like he walked away from the car without even thinking in the first place. Yeah. And then he had already made it so far by that point that he was like, oh, I'll just walk to that parking lot.
No, that's true. That definitely could have been it.
And maybe it was just like, I don't want to walk back and get them at this point.
It was definitely risky. Because it's like, if you need those glasses, like, why are you walking in the dark without your glasses? Like, that's not a good move.
But maybe it was
makes sense that maybe he was just frustrated. He was definitely, he had a drink. So maybe he just wasn't thinking like he normally would.
Yeah. And he was like trying to like focus on that parking lot area. So maybe it would have made it wonky for him.
Yeah.
Trying to focus on that.
That's true.
Because he was really focused on those city lights.
He was saying that the city lights were kind of far away, but far enough, close enough that he could walk.
Yeah.
But he was on that phone for 47 minutes. So he knew it was far enough away that he was probably going to need his glasses to get through there.
Yeah. I wonder if it was just a thing of like, I made it this far now. I don't want to turn around.
And then I can also understand too, like sometimes... Who knows if he was wearing his glasses when he was driving. And then when I'm on the phone, if I'm wearing my glasses, sometimes I'll take them off just to like rub my eyes and like give them a minute.
Or I'll even like fidget with my glasses.
Just to like kind of, and if you're frustrated, maybe you're sitting there, he took off his glasses on the phone. He's like, guys, I'm right here. I'm in the car.
Yeah.
You know,
like holding his head.
He was doing that. Not a lot of people, but a few people were confused when I said that the mom and dad could hear the click of the headlights. They could hear it over the phone. Yeah. They couldn't hear it. Some people were like, wait, could they hear it like outside? And they were like, what, is this a parallel universe? And I trust me, I was with you on that one.
I planted that seed.
In the phone, they could hear it.
While they were on the phone, they could hear him clicking.
So maybe while he was sitting there clicking those headlights, he's on the phone, he's getting frustrated because he eventually hung up on them. Yeah. Like he was that annoyed. Maybe he's just rubbing his eyes, just kind of being like, dude, I'm tired. I just want to get home. Like, just find me where I am. I know where I am, even though he didn't.
I think that this case, like, as it unfolds, is like kind of becoming like more like simpler. Yeah. Like, I really agree with like the farm thing, and
parts of it become simpler, but then other parts, I mean, the whole part of where the hell he is the part that's like, doesn't make sense.
But it's like so gut wrenching because it's like,
it just could have been avoided in a couple of ways here.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Now, the next person who wrote in said, and it was just this in the email, and I was like, I appreciate your brevity.
I love it.
I have always wondered if he walked into a sinkhole. That was it. That was the email, and I was like, yes, because I was like,
okay,
what? I just
say no more.
I love when somebody just, this is my thought. Here it is.
That's a valid thought.
So this is actually one that I was already considering as well. So when I got this, I was like, there you are.
Great.
There's the other person
another
thinking
fear.
That. So I did some digging, and sinkholes are actually very much a thing in Minnesota.
Oh.
In fact, Fountain, Minnesota, which is a little over 3 hours away from Marshall, more maps, is known as the sinkhole capital of the U.S. sometimes.
Sometimes?
Just like, I don't know if it's like an official name, but it's like,
I was like
people refer
do they
to
get
it.
rid of them?
I don't know if everybody agrees, but it's been known as that.
What?
They're known as cover collapse sinkholes and are common because of ground rocks like limestone and dolomite. Now, these rocks are soluble and can start fading away as water runs under the soil and mixes with like plant root gases. The water mixes with carbon dioxide, makes a carbonic acid, and that acid erodes the limestone and dolomite. Once that happens, the ground just weakens because all of that topsoil gets too heavy for those weakened rocks. Boom, sinkhole. Yeah, I actually found a recent Facebook post that had been deleted, and I was like, what are you trying to cover up?
Oh.
In a City of Marshall, it's like a City of Marshall, Minnesota Facebook group, obviously, where someone was complaining about a sinkhole in a bike path off of Route 23. Or Highway 23. That's in the immediate area of where we talked about connecting Route 68 to Lind.
Complaining about a sinkhole like it was just like a really like
guys,
like,
there's a fucking sinkhole in this bike path.
So
and when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, cover up. But what if Brandon fell into a sinkhole and he's still in it? It's a thing.
Could we
that
sinkholes.
would also explain the keys and the phone never being found. They went in with him.
That very much explains that.
Possible.
So, could you find a sinkhole and like dig it up? Like, how does that work?
I don't know.
I don't either.
They would have to find the sinkhole, I suppose, but it's probably been filled in by now. But I don't know. This one, I mean, it's like definitely possible, but it's not like the theory I hang my hat on.
Do you hang your hat on the farm equipment?
Farm equipment
I
for
do
me,
too.
man.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it is the same. Like sometimes the sinkhole capital of the U.S.
So just sometimes, every
occasionally,
once in a while,
when it feels like it
comes out of hibernation. It's like, here I am again,
back again.
That and like the cistern is a very interesting thing and very possible
and very ominous,
very terrifying. I don't know.
I don't know.
I can't say for sure.
Sinkholes, I don't really like understand sinkholes because I never know how deep they are. I don't know how they just like happen.
They're scary. They just open up.
I don't like them.
Yeah, nobody likes sinkholes, I think. I mean, if you do, I'm sorry, but if any sinkholes are listening right now, I'm very sorry, but nobody likes you. So like, I'm sorry.
You should get a new gig.
To the sinkhole community, I apologize. But if you are a sinkhole listening to this podcast, I apologize. I didn't mean to.
I don't apologize. Stop
just
eating the earth.
Just like chill out.
Yeah, just eat something else.
So here's another theory from a healthcare worker. Okay. And this one's very interesting as well. My theory is about the lost time. I'm a healthcare...
Mine is too.
I'm saying. I'm a healthcare worker and deal with concussions and traumatic brain injuries very often. The one thing I can think of is if he crashed, he maybe hit his head, was unconscious for X amount of time, then woke up without realizing the time difference and called his parents.
Okay.
Concussions and TBIs can do some crazy things, which kind of makes me think that's why he was so confused with where he was even at.
Yeah.
Common signs and symptoms are confusion, anger, unconsciousness, etc. You don't even need to bleed or have any external signs, which is why he thought he was fine. I've had a kid get hit with a football, knocked unconscious, and then be confused and angry at us because he didn't know where he was. They also tend to think they're fine, even if they're stumbling or having other issues. Think buzzed, drunk person actions and behavior without alcohol. These are just my 2 cents.
I guess we would need to get like the phone records to see when he started calling his friends.
Well, and I also think this is just a great point.
Yeah.
And one that I had not seen explored elsewhere.
Well, and that so perfectly accounts for the lost time.
And for his confusion about where he was, which is the part that I can't
that doesn't make sense.
Wrap my brain around.
Right.
There's a real possibility that he knocked his head when the car went off-road.
Of course.
This wouldn't necessarily leave behind any evidence of an injury. All it takes is one good shake of your skull to get a concussion.
Yeah.
All it has to do is your brain slapping against your skull. That's it.
I hate that.
He was frustrated as hell with his parents, and maybe this is why.
Yeah.
Frustration is one of the symptoms.
And then I guess that could also account for taking off the glasses. Like he may have just taken them off.
Had a headache and was like,
yeah.
Or just was like, ugh. Like,
right.
Or they fell off. It doesn't say where they were. They
That's
weren't. I don't know if they
point.
were properly placed in the like next to him in the seat. Or if they were on the floor, maybe they fell off when he hit his head and he just couldn't find them again.
Exactly.
That's a possibility.
I hate how like this is like being wrapped up, but like we still don't know.
He wasn't able to convey what he was trying to say, and he's also dealing with symptoms of a TBI or concussion. maybe he's getting frustrated. He's like, no, this is where I am. He has no idea where he is.
Right.
He could have been stumbling through those fields and complaining about climbing fences to his parents, sounding normal, and ended up falling into the river or any number of things we mentioned above.
Yes.
It makes a lot of sense.
It also is like really like pissing me off that back then you couldn't just send somebody a ping of your location.
I know, isn't it so frustrating?
It's like, why hadn't technology
Thank
come that
goodness
far
we
yet?
have that technology now.
I know, because it saved lives.
It has. And the searches for Brandon happen to this day. I had mentioned before in 2021, the Yellow Medicine riverbed dried up because of a drought.
Yeah.
It was excavated. Nothing was found. They keep running into those issues with farmers not wanting to allow people on their property.
And it's interesting to me that it's only a few farmers.
It is, because they said in general, these people are very cooperative, very kind, very into the community and this family and want to help.
Is this like a group of farmers that like maybe know
works
some together? Like, I'm sure they like trade different things. So,
And it's like, does one of them know some? And they're just keeping each
but that's
other's
like,
back.
honestly, if that is the case and you're listening, Farmer John, that's not cool.
Just tell someone, man.
You got it. Like, it's not your fault.
Yeah, you can say
You
it was
didn't
an
know.
accident. You freaked out.
I mean, now it's
pretty bad now. But
yeah,
like
you've been holding this in for a while, but do you want that feeling in your gut?
That's bad for you.
And it's like this guy has family.
He has family.
Has a sibling,
who
has
are
a
to
mom
this
and a dad.
day searching for him. Just give them peace.
Yeah. If that's the case, that's really
It's really jacked up.
I hope that's not the case, but I also hope it's not the case that he fell into a sinkhole.
None of these are good scenarios.
No.
For sure.
But at least it's like I would hope that like he didn't suffer too much.
Yeah.
And
I would
hopefully
hope. Which if it's hypothermia, it's like that's horrific.
Yeah.
So I don't love that.
there's
no good outcome here. There really isn't.
No.
But one good thing that happened was March 12th, 2009. A year after Brandon went missing, Brian and Annette Swanson, his parents, took action. They spoke in front of the House and got Brandon's law passed.
Oh.
It's an expansion of Minnesota's Missing Children's Act and basically gets investigators moving quicker for missing and endangered adults.
Isn't it so that they had to do
They
that?
had to literally get a law passed to be like, you should look for people.
Yeah.
It takes that waiting period away and would stop what happened in Brandon's case from happening again.
Good.
They waited, they argued with the parents instead of immediately looking for him when they were clearly showing that they were distressed and that he was distressed.
Right.
And valuable time, valuable evidence was lost as a result.
Because that's the other thing. If this, God forbid, was the farm thing, they would have found his
They could have
body
found
before
him.
that had happened.
Exactly.
If that is the case.
Because they would have found him that night, hopefully, or in that morning.
Yeah.
Or at least told farmers in the area, there's a guy missing,
Don't
search your
run your
fields,
crops.
don't run your equipment right away.
Yeah.
Or be on the lookout.
And
this could have ended
they could have
differently.
even found him in the early stages of hypothermia before it progressed to
And maybe
death.
saved him.
Right.
Well, this law was, it was officially signed into law by Governor Tim Pawlenty on May 6th, 2009. And
Good.
it went into action in June. So if you know anything about this case, have any information, they are still taking tips. So please call the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension at 651-793-700, sorry. Lincoln County Sheriff's Office at 507-694-1664. We also mentioned a couple of others in the first episode, so please just, if you know anything, if you're in Minnesota, if you were in Minnesota, you know anything, just give them a call.
For real.
We gotta, and if you're one of those people who won't let them search your properties, let them search your property.
Yeah, come on.
Come on.
Just do it.
We gotta get an answer here.
Put the cattle in the barn for a minute. The corn
Honestly,
can get another year.
There you go. Corn.
Another year for
You know,
corn. I don't know.
Another
not this
year for corn.
There's plenty
But-
of corn. We'll lend you some.
Yeah. I mean, like, corn is a band as well. So,
Yeah. Like there might be like children in the corn. Like
yeah. Malachi, Isaac, they might be in there.
Yeah.
He who
Shut the
walks
corn
behind
down.
the rows, you know? We don't know.
Freaks me out, man.
But in all seriousness, I truly believe he definitely went into that river at one point, either by accident or tried to wade through it. I think he probably had some exposure issues.
I think hypothermia played a role here.
I think hypothermia played a role here. I wonder about the farm equipment. I really do.
For me, that's the strongest theory.
I think it's a strong theory. It's a horrific theory, but
yeah.
I don't know what else could have happened. But Thank you guys for writing in with your theories and
I
for
know.
clearing some things up, because you truly did. Like, you were a massive part of this episode, because
real.
there were things I didn't think
The
of.
glasses, the TBI, the sinkhole. I mean, who knew that sometimes it was the sinkhole capital?
Exactly. You never know.
That's nuts.
But-
Thank you guys.
But thank you so much for writing in, for all your comments on this, and hopefully this gets some memories ticking of somebody who knows something,
Some consciences
just
stirring.
anything, some consciences,
yeah.
consciences.
I always
stirring.
get those confused.
It's hard to say,
consciences,
but hopefully Brandon, one way or another, can be brought home to his family at some point. Let's make 2022 the year.
I know.
Let's get him home.
He deserves
The
it. and his
Swansons
family
deserve
it.
They do. But thank you for sticking in here.
And we hope you keep listening.
And we hope you
Keep
it weird.
We're not so worthy you won't let the police search your farm for a boy that's been missing for a really long time, because his family deserves to bring him home. And if you're not going to be able to let them search your farm, then that's just not very nice of you. And I think that you should let them, because it will wash away the icky feeling that's been on your conscience for a really long time. Bye.
Yeah. Send it up.
If you like Morbid, you can listen early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts. Prime members can listen ad-free on Amazon Music. Before you go, tell us about yourself by filling out a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.